So far in Logic, we've only been using audio tracks. This week, when you create a new project, select Software Instrument instead of Audio. If you have your own Midi synthesizer, I'd like you to use Logic's software instruments first and then apply your knowledge to your own equipment and choose external Midi. It might not be obvious, but Logic uses Midi to control its software instruments. You can use your computer keyboard as a Midi controller. To access this feature, go to the Window menu and select Show Musical Typing, or press Command K. This brings up a colored piano keyboard which has notes, pitch bend, octave switching, and more, all controlled by your computer keyboard. Logic defaults to an electric piano sound when you create a new software instrument. To audition it, press the record button, and then type on your keyboard. Try using the Z and X keys to change the octave. How high or low can you go? When using Midi, you might want to use the metronome, which will give you a beat to record to. Think about the tempo of the piece you're writing. Do you really want it to be 120 beats per minute? I'm going to change the tempo to 70, and then I'm going to turn on my metronome and my count in. This will give me 4 counts before Logic starts recording. Once I press record, I can enter Midi data. Now that I'm done recording, I can close the musical typing window. I can play back. And I'm done with my metronome, so I'm going to turn that off as well. It's very easy to completely change the timbre of your Midi recording. Right now it's on classic electric piano. Instead, I'm going to pick arpeggiator, synth layers, and liquid rhythm. It would take a lot of work to change the electric piano into this arpeggiated liquid rhythms using nothing but audio effects, but with Midi, we can just change the instrument. If you don't like the arpeggiator, you can simply scroll left and select another instrument. Now I'm going to choose synthesizer, plucked, plastic nylon guitar. If I want to change the tone only slightly, I can double-click on my instrument icon to get to the settings for this particular instrument. Notice, as I turn the timbre knob up, I get a harsher sound. I can automate any of these parameters by selecting Automate and choosing the Smart Controls submenu. This works like any other automation. I click to create points and drag to create change. Just like audio, you can double-click on a Midi region, and instead of a waveform, you'll see a piano roll. The piano keyboard is to the left, and the yellow bars represent the notes. The piano is on the left, and the yellow lines represent notes. You can drag a note vertically to change its pitch, or drag horizontally to change its length. You can also use a pencil tool to draw in notes, but I find it's much faster to use the computer keyboard. Once you have some Midi entered, you'll want to add the expressivity. You can do this with Midi messages. Double-click to get rid of the piano roll. Get rid of your automation window. And then you can select View, Midi Draw, and Note Velocity. Each of these blue lines represents the volume. I can drag it down to soften the attack. Notice that we now have a musical phrase. I'm only changing the initial attack volume. Now I'm going to add some pitch bend. I go to View, Midi Draw, Pitch Bend. And I change my pointer tool to a pencil. Do you hear the pitch bend? Note, when I changed the volume with Midi, it only changed the initial attack volume. If you want to change the volume of a note while it is sounding, you'll have to edit the audio. Midi tracks actually generate audio, so all the previous audio effects are available to use on the Midi track. Select A, and instead of timbre, we're going to select main and volume. And we can create a crescendo. To add a new Midi track, you simply select the plus button and software instrument. For this week's assignment, I want you to use a combination of audio and Midi to create a piece of music. Try to get your Midi tracks to sound as expressive as your audio tracks. And remember, you can always use audio duplication to support your Midi.